everyone, welcome back to the Girls Who Eat, Breathe and Dream Motorsport. My name is Danique, I'm here with my co-host Jamie, and today we are joined by Carla. Welcome!
Hello, everyone.
So, it's week 8, and this is what is going on this week and happened last week in motorsport. So, it is the week of the WEC Prologue, and Formula 1 testing is starting on Wednesday. Also, all of the Formula 1 liveries have been revealed last week, and there have been some very controversial opinions from what I've heard, but also some not that changed liveries, such as Red Bull, but their car then looks a bit different. We also have a partnership between AlphaTauri, the clothing brand, and the FIA announced today. David Malukas dislocated his wrist and had to go into surgery, and unfortunately will not be able to do some of the IndyCar testing and possibly races. And so, announced just 30 minutes ago is that Callum Islet is going to replace David in the tests at the homestead of IndyCar. So I'm very excited to see if he will actually be the one driving the car and substituting for David. In Formula 1 Academy, we had the news of Charlotte Tilbury being a sponsor and sponsoring Lola Lovenfoss. And a wildcard entry has also been added for the Saudi Arabian race with Rima Jufali, who is a 32-year-old Saudi Arabian racing driver. So I'm very excited to see how she will perform. That's the news that's happened the past week and is happening this week.
It's quite a lot, isn't it, for the fact that we're not
Yes.
actively driving right now?
Yeah, it's
Yep.
insane.
It is good though. It's always
Yes.
nice to realize that even when racing is not racing, there's still a lot going on, which just shows how much is happening around the whole topic of motorsport, not just on track, but also off track.
It's insane sometimes to realize how much time goes into motorsport, especially if you're working in it. If I see like what all of the announcements that are getting made, or even if you're expected not to drive in a series and then someone else gets injured and then you have to quickly be rushed in and step in and replace them for God knows how long. We saw that last year, of course, with Calvin van der Linde in
Exactly.
Formula E, which
We
was
saw how
insane.
difficult that is as well.
Yeah, we saw
Yep.
it with Stoffel van Dorne in WEC, of course, when Nico Müller broke his collarbone. So I'm very curious to see how it goes in IndyCar, but I guess we have to wait and see.
Definitely. It's a good chance for Callum to present himself in a different light.
Yeah, definitely. I'm also excited for him to be driving in WEC this year with Jota Hertz, which is going to be interesting because he's been in so many series already.
Yep. And Jota is definitely one of the more exciting teams for many reasons to be part in, not just for their skills as a team, which is very impressive, or they have been very impressive for the past few seasons, but also for anything that happens around it. They are one of those teams that you can really point out when it comes to social media, for example. They are very strong on the social media game. So I think it's a very exciting team to be part of. So it's gonna be interesting to see what Callum is doing with it.
Yeah, definitely, especially considering he has not really raced in the series before.
Yep.
Maybe Le Mans, I think he may have done in the past, but like that's about it. But yeah, that's basically the news. I don't know anything else that has happened or is happening this week. So maybe let's get into chatting a bit more with you about your role in motorsport. So if you want to, you can explain a little bit about your role.
Yeah, I'm More than happy to. It's a role that is not explained in a simple way, let's put it like that. But if we want to break it down, there's basically two main things that I do, or let's say three main things. So on one end, I have the role of I hate the word, but it explains it quite easily, the influencer in the automotive world and motorsport world. Maybe let's call it a host as well. I'm lucky enough to be hosting several social media pages over the whole season of motorsport, and even at events, live viewings, and so on. And the other side is my own company, which just now is going through a little rebranding, which will be very exciting. And with that company, I'm focusing on social media management and content creation, mostly in the area of cars and motorsports. So therefore, a very busy year every year, traveling a lot, being with drivers, with teams, with whole series, with certain events, and so on. Just now, actually, as you can see, I'm in a very weird environment. I'm in a hotel room because I'm in Geneva for the Geneva International Motor Show, which is happening next week, sorry. First time since 4 years that is finally taking place again. So there's a lot of exciting things I get to do in my role.
That sounds very fun indeed, definitely. And did you always plan to do something in the motorsport world, or did it just happen?
It literally just happened, although I think if I tell the story how it happened, you might say it didn't just happen. I actually went for it, but no, I didn't. I was not planning on doing that. Let's put it like that. I did grow up with motorsport in my life. As some may know, my father is very involved in motorsport, has been very involved, is very involved. And for me, as a young child, it was always Sundays watching Formula One and looking for daddy on the TV. So I did grow up with the motorsport very close to my heart. Nonetheless, I planned to be a dancer. Actually, I was I was going full on 6 days a week, up to 6 hours a day training to be a dancer, which when I was around about 16, I had to stop for my body couldn't handle the whole pressure of the dancing. And yeah, then it took a few years until I finished school, and then I was doing a lot of catering, and I was running a restaurant or a coffee shop, let's put it like that. And at some point, I had to stop with that, and I didn't know what to do. I honestly didn't know what to do, and I took half a year off. And at some point, I got the idea. I was looking at my calendar, and I spent a lot of time during that half a year with my family in Italy and just taking some time. And I looked at the calendar, and I was like, hey, Formula One Monaco is happening next week. Might as well just go. I didn't have a ticket. There was no reason for me to actually go to Monaco. I did it anyways. I didn't have a ticket. I drove there and I walked, I think it was something like 30,000 steps that day, because I just crossed Monaco 15 times, I feel like, up and down the hill. And when it was time for the race, I chose one of the bars, which is really, really close to the track. I grabbed a beer, I sat outside so I can hear the cars passing, and I took my phone out and I watched the race while I was sitting next to the racetrack. And this was literally the first moment where I figured out I had so much fun just being in that industry and just experiencing the whole excitement that is literally around it, because I couldn't see the cars, I couldn't look at anything. I was just hearing the noise and feeling the energy that was happening at Monaco. That then and there, that's when it started, that I knew I wanted to get into that somehow. I did a bold move after that because when Monaco was over, I was on my way back to my family in Italy, and I realized, hold on, Le Mans is quite soon. So I called my father up because I knew that he's going to Le Mans. And I told him, well, you are taking me to Le Mans this year. And he was like, I really love you dearly, but no, I am not taking you to Le Mans. And then I was like, well, is Neil Johnny driving? Because Neil Johnny is one of the very few drivers that my father actually supported very actively throughout the whole career of Neil Johnny. And then he was like, yeah, actually Neil Johnny is driving. And I was like, well, I'm going to ask him then. Keep in mind, I knew Neil Johnny. I met him once or twice, but I was not in contact with Neil Johnny whatsoever. I didn't know the man. Nonetheless, I was bold and I texted him and I said, well, Mr. Johnny, I know you're going to Le Mans. Can I come, please? And I was very surprised when the message came back where he said, yeah, but you have to do my social media for 4 days. I was like, you got it. I'm doing your social media. Absolutely no problem, sir. And that was literally out of nowhere. I had this chance and Jesus Christ, I had no idea what I was doing. If I'm looking back at what I did there, was terrible compared to what I can do today. But it was truly a door opener for me because I got to try something out, which is not normal that you get to try this out so easily and so quickly. And yeah, and after that, I did look into a few jobs in motorsport, but all of them required at least a bachelor and at least 3 years of experience. So I was like, screw them, I'm gonna do it on my own. And I started to do my own YouTube videos about cars because I figured what's closest to racing, it's cars. So I started to test cars. I did YouTube videos about what I think about the different cars in the market. I was lucky enough that one of the Swiss car magazines picked me up and they said, you're going to be my online girl. So I was paid very early on for what I do. And the rest is history because then clients came rolling in because they liked what I did. I ended up on the racetrack just as I had visioned. And here we are 4 years later, 4.5 years later, and I'm having a podcast with you guys.
It sounds like an incredible journey, honestly. And that's what we also say. Aim high, just go for it because you never know where you might end up. That's how we have you here now. We spoke with Sam Smith. We spoke with Jeff Dodds, and we have some very exciting guests lined up as well in the future. So we are like, just go for it because you never know where you end up.
Exactly. That's the way to do it.
I sometimes just don't think too much about it. That's how I mostly like just ask someone like, do you want to? Just ask and you figure it out along the way.
Exactly.
That's what happened. That's also how we got Jeff and Sam and you. So that's yeah, just try, just do it.
And I must say, you guys were you were good because when you contacted me the first time, I didn't answer. It's not that I didn't answer because I didn't want to. It's that I didn't answer because I literally had clicked on the mail without realizing it, and it just slipped away in my mail account. So, and you guys went back and said, by the way, we don't have an answer yet, Carla. Do you want to or not? So well done, girls. Sometimes you have to be a little bit ballsy and just catch up again.
That's what we try.
Very good.
Not always easy, but we try to at least catch up and keep in contact, keep it going, just so things actually happen, because we know like once we put it down, it might not happen at all. So if we keep it going, it will probably happen at some point.
Exactly.
Even we said like I sent a message to Nick Cassidy after he had the live stream on his Instagram with Antonio Felix da Costa, saying like, honestly, before you start your own podcast, you should join us first to see how you like it. And he was like, honestly, yes, I will, but currently it's too hectic, so I will get back to you on it or something like that. And we were like, we're fine with any date, even if it's after London or whatever, even if it's in like a year, we're fine with it because we know it's most likely going to happen if we keep catching up to it or keep trying and keep reaching out.
There you go.
You never know what you can lead.
Did you reach out to him again?
Not yet, but this only happened last week.
All right. Very good. Keep on.
Like,
stay at it.
We'll see him in Monaco and in Berlin and in London anyway. We'll keep him
reminded.
reminded. We'll put a message with our stroopwafels that we'll give him.
Oh, yeah.
Very good.
Remember.
Exactly. I'm sure he's gonna like that.
But yeah, so what I always wonder is, what do you love most about motorsport from a fan perspective? You already named the atmosphere, but is that what you love most about it?
Honestly, I think it's I'm probably a little bit biased in that end because I have such a long history, a lifelong history, literally, with the sport. But I think if I really break it down, the one thing that I love absolutely most about it is the emotions. It's the one thing that everyone is waiting for. It's the checkered flag, the moment where the winner crosses the line and the team is just hugging, crying, being excited. The driver coming out of his car, when it's a GT car, they stand on top of the car, they're having fun, they're having a celebration. And I think this moment, and especially if you were lucky enough to experience it live at least once, this is something very, very breathtaking. And I think when you break it down, that's really why we do it on an emotional level. The whole emotional experience. Of course, there's a sports part to it, but even the race driver himself, why is he doing it? He wants to be the best, and if he's the best, he feels the best. So it has a very big emotional part, the whole sport. So I think if I have to break it down to one thing, it's definitely that. I mean, I've had tears in my eyes myself for watching teams winning who I've never even spoken to, just because I was lucky enough to be there and take in all the emotion and everything that happens in these moments. And also on the the other side, when things don't happen, when people are disappointed, when there's heartbreak, especially in races like endurance races, 24-hour races, when an hour before the race would be over, the car breaks down and the whole team is just like, why? And people cry and are sad. It's the sad part about it, but it's why we're there. It's the emotions. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, I definitely can see that. For me, it's
Yeah.
definitely like just a fan atmosphere, but the emotions are also part of that, I think, because you share the emotions with fans, either who support your team or who are supporting another team that might not do as well or might do better and things like that. Like, there's always emotions going around everywhere, and
Yeah, definitely.
it's incredible to see how widely on a spectrum it can be in the
Absolutely.
same race, in the same 15 minutes or something. It can already change massively.
Yeah. Yeah,
So yeah.
absolutely. But I think there's so many sides to it as well, because if you speak about being with the fans and experiencing the race, I literally have to say I don't truly know what you're talking about, because I have been blessed with the fact that I was able to be behind the scenes more often than not. I have never actually been the fan who went and bought a ticket and sat somewhere on a tribune and watched the race from there. I went to the tribune because maybe I had to do content and I wanted to see the point of view of a fan. But I never had this experience of just being a fan, and I'm not meaning that as just, but from the whole experience from the fan side. I think that must be, I kind of want to compare it to a concert, maybe, that when you're at the concert or at a festival, that this is the spirit of being together and enjoying something together. So I believe that this must be a very special experience as well to do it that way.
Yeah, it
Yes.
definitely
Like,
is.
like not last year, but the year before, I went to my first race in Austria, and last year I went to my first Formula E race in Monaco. So I was very blessed that was Monaco. And this year we are going through 3 race weekends, so to 5 races. So that's very exciting. Also very different. I think I went for the whole weekend in Austria. And then Monaco was just 1 day. So there's a big difference because, it's just 1 day. And with Austria, I was with like other people, and it's more party, it's more partying after the race and all the sessions. Then that's what Formula E is. Very different, but it's equally fun.
Yeah, the people from Austria, wild ones.
Yeah, but also the Dutch
Isn't
people going to
yeah.
Austria.
True.
That's
very true.
just so funny. Yeah, because we were standing like I was with an Austrian friend and German friend and me and an American. But around us there were all Dutch people. So at the beginning I was like, oh no, I'm the only one who speaks Dutch. So I was like, I pretend I don't understand you guys. But that's someone I think one of the girls said, yeah, she's Dutch, so she can speak Dutch with you. I was like, why did you tell them? Now they are going to talk to me every single time if they need something or they want to talk to us. But there are fun people. I have had really a lot of fun actually. But I was
Good.
like, just don't. I don't want to talk to people. Don't just people. But anyway, so
Well, I guess you meet a lot of people that way as well, don't you? When you're
yes,
in the groups and just enjoy the same thing, it's probably a nice way to meet people as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
You hung out with them the whole weekend, so that was very nice.
So fun.
So yeah, I've been to 5 Formula E races already, twice to Rome, so last year and the year before. And like in 2022, when I went to my first ever Formula E race, first ever race in general, we met some people and I met up with them in Monaco last year and in Rome again last year. And we also plan to meet up with them again this year. And like we chat occasionally with them and everything like that. So it's very incredible how a sport like Formula E or just in general motorsport can bring so many people together in
Yeah.
such a short amount of time.
Yeah, that is amazing. But you're bringing up an interesting point. So you did experience Formula E over as a fan over let's say a wider time frame, even going to the same races twice in a row. So you as a fan, do you see some change regarding Formula E? Do you see an increasement in fans joining or the way they experience it or enjoy it or maybe not enjoy it or maybe it's getting less?
So the thing with the first time I went, it was still in Corona time, in COVID times. But I definitely saw quite a bunch of bunch of fans. Especially and since Antonio Giovinazzi was still racing, of course, a lot of Italian fans came to the Formula E race. So in that aspect, I did see like slightly less people there the past year compared to the year before. But overall, in social media engagement, especially, I see a big growth after like the past year since halfway through season 9, I think, maybe even the beginning. I saw a lot more people being like, oh, it's Formula One winter break. But oh, Formula E is happening. I can check that out because, of course, Nick de Vries has driven there before. Stoffel van Doorne has driven in both categories, and many more who are in Formula E have driven also in Formula One. And I saw a lot more people getting interested in Formula E. And especially the past year, after so many controversies in Formula One, I've definitely seen people that have been switching from mainly being Formula One fans to mainly being Formula E or World Endurance fans. So I definitely see a shift happening,
Yeah.
which is very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm asking because it's when you're in the circus and you are the one doing social media and you are the one creating content, you are the one who's constantly on site. Sometimes it's hard to tell. I mean, numbers, they don't really represent what it's really like and how it's really changing, in my opinion, anyways, because view numbers, they can be pushed up without any problem at any time. So it's interesting to hear that you see a growth, let's put it like that, regarding Formula E, because I think, again, I was very involved last year in Formula E. So I think that any growth in Formula E, but I must say also Formula One, like you said before, World Endurance and so on, this whole fandom has really, really grown over the last probably maximum 2 years. it's increased massively with content creators being so active and guys like you creating podcasts and talking about it constantly and just going for it. I think TikTok has also played a big role in that. And obviously the involvement of Netflix, which made sure that the states are more involved in the whole thing. But it's interesting to hear from someone like you guys who are on site as a fan more often than not, and that you guys can actually feel that as well. It's nice.
Yeah, I guess it's just what I've noticed. I think definitely social media is a big part that has played a role in it.
Yep. I'm very sure of that that is the case, that content creators and not just content creators as in people who do it full time, but as in people who go online to talk about something like motorsport. I think they have played a huge role in where we are right now, and I think it's just the beginning. I think we're going to see a big move again in the same direction, and I'm very excited to see what comes from it, because with these type of movements, there's always new things, new ways of communicating, of creating content and so on coming up as well. So it's going to be an interesting time for sure.
Definitely. Yeah. So what I also always wonder, since you just said like you've worked, of course, in Formula E a lot the past year, and you've worked in other race categories, and that you worked as like a social media content creator, large and host of channels. Do you have any crazy interactions with drivers that you can share? And if so, what is your favorite one?
Oh boy. I don't know if I am the one who has wildly wild stories to tell with race drivers. I think I've been on, let's say, there's two sides. There's the negative experiences and the very positive experiences. And on the negative side, I was lucky enough to have pretty much no experiences on that end, which I'm knocking on wood. It has to stay like that. I think it's also very much what you put out, how professional or unprofessional you show up, and how professional or unprofessional you do your work. So I was blessed with a lot of cool people around me, and I am very picky as well with who I work with, how. So I'm lucky enough that I can choose my clients and stick with them for as long as it's possible. On a positive note, I think the things that I do enjoy most are actually the small moments. It's nothing big, but it's whenever, for example, it's when Sheldon van der Linde won DTM. I was there for that race weekend. I was responsible for social media for DTM that year. And I knew him a little bit, obviously, throughout the work, but also through other connections. And when you can go to that person and they are excited to see you, not because he's so excited to see me, but because I'm there to hug him and to congratulate him for that. These are like the nice small moments. And even when you just pass people that you see every now and then, so race drivers that you see every now and then, and it's just a quick hi, it's, for me, it's the feeling of being home, to see the people over and over and over again, and to have nice conversations and nice interactions with them. So for me, it's not a big moment in that sense. It's really more the small moments in between that are yeah, close to my heart, if I can say so.
That does sound very lovely. It's of course it's very different perspective from someone who works in motorsport versus us as fan being and having interactions with drivers wherever possible. For example, the autograph sessions and those moments.
Yeah, I think I also, maybe I'm a little bit sometimes I think I'm a little bit too radical with the point of view when it comes to race drivers and other people who are important. I'm gonna put it in brackets, because for me, it doesn't matter if it's my neighbor or if it's Barack Obama. I'm literally going to talk to all of them the same way. I respect the people I interact with, and I put them on the same level. And therefore, having an interaction with a race driver is not the big moment for me. It's just having another interaction with someone who hopefully is interesting and who hopefully can give me something for my life and something that I can take with me for the rest of my life. And I must say, I know that race drivers are always very shiny on social media and to the world outside, but let me tell you, they are not always in person. There's a lot of, I'm not going to tell names here, but there's a lot of them who are often in a bad mood, who have a very diva behavior, who are just difficult, where you are standing there and you're like, I know you have all these followers on social media, but come on, can you just behave like everyone else, please, and just enjoy where you can be and all of that. So you see, I think that's why I was able to just text Neil Johnny that back in 2019 and be like, hey, can I come? Do you need someone? Because I think if I had this fandom thought, this would have been something way too big for me to do. Yeah, so therefore for me, it's more the small moments that are lovely with drivers.
That's like how my most vivid memory is me talking to Nick Cassidy about the weather in Rome.
Ah, nice.
Like out of all things, it was the weather. Like I could have chatted about his podium the day before or anything, but no, just the weather.
That's kind of like an awkward date, isn't it? When you start talking about the weather.
Yeah, or like a first time of meeting someone or something like that. It's very funny, but it's the thing that stays in my mind the most, besides the driver to driver interactions, like them annoying each other or whatever, and
Yeah,
getting to see that.
they can be schoolboys when they're out and about together, definitely.
I mean, we see the Formula E drivers all the time on holidays together. So
Yeah.
I can't even imagine to what they get up to on their free times.
Yeah, probably we also don't want to know everything, but
No.
it's sure nice to see. And I think if you talk to drivers from, let's say, 10 years and all like further away time-wise, they probably will tell you the same thing. But the fact is that today we see all these things on social media. So for us today, we follow them throughout the whole year and we literally know at all times where they are and what they do. There's very few who, I mean, Kimi Räikkönen never bothered to post anything, there's very few where we don't really know anything about them. But other than that, it's part of their job to be a person in the spotlight. And yeah, therefore we can actually tell that there's a lot of this I think what I mentioned before, this connection that is in between people and the feeling of going through certain things together. I think that's what bonds them in a way. Yeah, they fight on track and sometimes they fight off track as well because they were fighting too much on track. But there is not too many like true fights as such going on from what I know that carry on behind the scenes. So in my opinion, that's a really nice thing.
I can definitely agree with that. Jamie, do you have any questions?
Yes, we always ask our guests, what is the best advice you have gotten, and what is the best advice you have given?
That's a good one. I think the best advice I was given is kind of to just go for it. And I really don't remember exactly if that was something that a person specifically told me, but I think it was more the way that I was brought up at home. Especially with my mom, who she really is a go-getter. She's a journalist, and if she wants an interview with someone, it's more likely than not going to happen because she's going to get that interview with that someone. So this feeling of if you want to get somewhere, you have to do something for it and just go for it. I think that is one of the best advices, because obviously that's what I did, and that's what I'm doing until this day. And yeah, I think that's one of the best advices I got. And talking about advice that I can give, I think I would go in the similar direction. Because at some point I know so many people around me who struggle a lot with making decisions, with making a move, with having ideas, but then kind of suffering from imposter syndrome and not going for it, even though the ideas they have are fantastic, or whatever it is, changing the job, or I don't know, there's a lot of struggle in the world with people not feeling like they cannot make a move or they cannot go for something. And I think if you want to put it into a sentence, the worst that can happen is that you get a no. The worst that can happen is that you get a no. And even when you get a no, I'm 100% sure you can learn something to take away for the future and for the next thing. And let me tell you, I've learned so many things for myself from looking at other people doing it wrong. And I don't mean that in a cocky way, but you know, even when I was treated wrong by other people, for example, or if the no that I received was a really harsh one and kind of, you know, hurtful, that's the way that I will not do it in the next time that I have a conversation with someone. So I think just go for it, be open-minded, and the worst that can happen is a no, and it's not going to be the end of your life. It's just going to open new doors.
I think it's also what we mostly go by. So that's nice to hear. That's a similar advice. Because I think definitely in motorsport, I think there are a lot of people are willing to help, even though you don't know it. And you will not know it if you don't go for it or don't ask.
Exactly. It's exactly like that. And I think you just have to be respectful. You have to be considerate of the person that is standing in front of you. And if you are lovely, and if you do good work, and if you just do your best in any sense, I think there's nothing that has to hold you back. Like I said, even if someone is closing a door in front of you, I'm sure there's another one right over there waiting for you to go through.
Or a window.
Or a window, whatever it is.
There's more ways that leads to Rome.
Exactly.
So, do you have a typical work week when you are working with motorsport, or is it different each week?
It does change a lot, since I have very different clients, kind of, even though I'm in the same industry. It's a different thing with each client that I work with. It does get very specific from client to client with the preparations that I have to do before I go to the racetrack. When you want to go into detail, the clothes I have to wear depending on who I'm working for. But I guess when it comes to the racetrack itself, of course, you always have more or less the same schedule wherever you go. There's always a free practice, there's always a qualifying, and there's always a race, and there's always an end to a race. So that always stays quite the same, no matter who I work with. It's just that what I do on track depends on who my client is and how they want me to work for them and with them. Yeah, but I think the one thing that is, if I'm out to do content, if I'm out to do social media, and it doesn't matter if it's me or if it's me plus a crew, because that happens as well, that I don't work by myself. Actually, the longer I'm in the industry, the more I work like that it's not just me showing up, it's me plus at least one videographer or a photographer. And the one thing that is really a theme is just that it's absolutely nonstop. You know that you go to a racetrack and you will sleep little to none. You mostly, unfortunately, eat not well, which I don't know why we always have to eat so bad on racetracks. This is something I want to put out there. Can we please increase the good food on racetracks? I travel half of the year and I eat bad half of the year. It's kind of painful. And yeah, and you are just with content creation, since you never know what's going to happen when, you literally have to be everywhere all the time. So I think that's a theme that goes through the whole race weekend.
Sounds interesting, but also exciting that depending on like what client you work with, it is still slightly different, but still very similar to keep a little bit of a pattern, of course.
Yeah, I think it's also it's good that there is some kind of pattern, because if it would be a completely different thing every weekend, and there is months where I'm gone every weekend, I think that would be it would be a nice challenge. I love challenges, but I think it also gives you the chance to become the potentially best at something. Apparently it takes you 10,000 hours to do something, to be very good at something. So it's good to have this repetition and to be able to base your weekend now on knowledge that you've gained on weekends before, which of course is really important. At the end of the day, you can when you talk about money, you can really put your prices as well on the experience that you have and on the stuff that you can deliver. So this, of course, is a big part of the business.
Do you have any goals in motorsport? Like things you still want to do that are like bucket list items?
So many things. And the one thing I'm not gonna do is drive race cars. I get that asked all the time. I'm not gonna be a race driver. I don't have the energy to be that nervous in a race car. But oh goodness, do I have any goals? I don't have the thing is, the weird thing with what I do is that everything just came together somehow. I never planned 4 years ago to be where I am now after 4 years. So I'm almost like purposefully not really planning on what my future is going to look like. But nonetheless, there is this big drive within me to create big things, whether that is becoming one of the best in this area of social media communication and content creation. Not just me, but my company, the things that I can create with my company. I want to be surrounded with people who do things better than I do, because in my opinion, that's the only way that you can really grow and become the best. And I guess there is still racetracks I haven't seen. I haven't been to the States since I've been doing this, to do racing there. NASCAR for sure would be a fun thing to experience at least once. I did Euro NASCAR actually, which was a great experience as well. But yeah, I guess there's just this I'm very hungry for big things, to make big moves and be one of the best, and be one of those where it's like yeah, Carla, yeah, isn't she the one who is like the number one social media or whatever? Maybe it's not social media in the future, maybe it's something else, but I sure as hell want to do things big and good. That's for sure.
I mean, even that is already a goal, to go
so.
bigger, better, stronger,
and I think
stronger out of it.
Yeah, and I think when having a conversation with you guys is also putting me a little bit or making me reflect on something that is really important to me as well, which is I want to be able to lift young people who want to be in the industry. And with the industry, I don't just mean motorsport. Maybe it's the content creation part, maybe it's the social media part, maybe it's whatever else that is going to be part of what I do in the future. But I see that there's a lot of growth in that area, where a lot of companies, teams, drivers, whatever, start to work with people who don't have as much experience and give them a chance. But I really hope that one day I can offer something for young people and for talented people, to give them a platform and to give them doors that they can go through and create great things.
That
It's a
sounds
very
amazing.
big goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very big responsibility. But I do feel like that is a very good goal to have, especially with seeing how many more young people get interested in content creation, social media, but also motorsport especially, and to see like how big of a part they actually play in it all.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's very good to hear.
Is
Do
there
you have
someone you look up to? And if so, who is it and why?
For sure, I have to mention my dad when you ask that. That's kind of one of the first people that comes into my mind, and that's really regarding all of the things that he did. He's such an inspiration in a way that I love that when I talk to my father about motorsport and all things motorsport and cars and so on, this guy is like he's like Google on legs, honestly. It's crazy how many things he can tell me, how many stories he can tell, how yeah, you when you talk to him, you're just like you feel like you don't know shit. And that is actually that's such a crazy thing because I every day I'm surrounded by so many things in this industry, and then I speak to my dad and I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. I don't know anything. So in that sense of all these different projects that he was in and the things that he can yeah, he can give me for my day-to-day life, that makes me look up to him as well. But on the other hand, I also must say that I look up to so many people. And literally sometimes it's people I don't even know. For me, there is inspiration literally everywhere. I watch movies, I'm inspired. I scroll through random social media channels, I'm inspired. I speak to you guys, I'm inspired. There is inspiration everywhere, and therefore I have a lot of people I look up to in that sense because I mean, for example, there's one person is popping up in my mind now. That's Tony. Tony, who's doing a lot of
Oh yes, yeah.
explanation videos on social media. I'm sure you know who she is. I mean, her, for example, I stumbled onto her page, I think somewhat early last year, and I was completely blown away by the way that she does her content, which doesn't mean I have to do the same content, but she was an inspiration in the way that she follows through, that she gets these information with the help of her team, that she does these videos the way that she does them, and so on. So there is inspiration for me really on almost any corner. There's everywhere there's something you can pick up and be inspired by. Yeah, I think again it's a very vague answer.
Yeah.
But just I'm like this person who just like I have like my eyes everywhere, and I feel like this creative bubble ball that just tries to soak up as much information and as much inspiration on every end as possible, which sometimes it's tiring, but it's a nice thing to do.
It does that sound very fun, especially getting inspiration everywhere is I think very useful in some cases, especially because inspiration can lead to creation, which can lead to incredible things. So it does sound very fun, especially, and I do love that you also mentioned your dad, so and that you really look up to him and his knowledge, because like I'm sometimes baffled with how much some people know, but some people also say that to me that they're baffled by how many random facts I can just spit out sometimes. And it's just you learn from everyone and from each other, and every brain is kind of like a sponge, and picking it up and actually remembering it, it's such a difficult task, especially, which is incredible to hear that you
Yeah.
then.
And I think it's also something it can be quite humbling sometimes when you speak to people who have apparently a bigger knowledge than you.
Mm.
It can be very scary. I remember, especially in the beginning when I started to do these videos, I based all my facts on, I was given these sheets of paper all the time with the cars that I tested, where you had like the basic facts, the color, the name of the car, the color, the engine, maybe some special additions to the car, when it was like a limited edition or whatever. And that's basically it. That's all the knowledge I had, because I had nothing to do with cars or motorsport before I did that. And I was sometimes I was sitting in these cars and I had this camera facing my face and I was like, what am I even doing here? I have no idea what I'm talking about. And then I put this stuff out and people are going to judge me. And I mean, there's millions other channels who do exactly the same. Why in heaven's name should I be doing that? But that's exactly, when I look back to it now, when you just keep on going and you, like you said, you're a sponge and you just take whatever comes to you, that's how you get to the point where all of these people are. I mean, my father, he's been in the industry for over 50 years. Of course he's Google on legs, obviously. That's how you get there. So yeah, I think it's nice when you can kind of get yourself back to the ground and just remember that it all takes time. It takes time to get this knowledge, and the only way to get it is by just doing what we do here, having conversations and soaking up.
Is there anything that you did in the past that you're like, and you don't do now anymore, but you're like, I really think it was one of the most educational things for me to do?
I think it must be these videos that I just spoke about, because I don't do these type of videos anymore. I stopped being the girl who just sits in the car and talks about the car. I much rather want to have an experience with the car. So whether that is because I'm invited somewhere to have this the brand experience, or because I take the car and I go someplace special, I want to give this experience to people. But when I started the videos in 2019, I wanted to do that. I just didn't know how. And the fact that I did that, which was very uncomfortable, especially in the beginning. I always tried to find places where I could hide so people don't see me filming the cars. And I always felt so weird and didn't really know. I got used to the camera quickly, which was nice, but still with what I said, I just didn't feel home. And that was partially because I had to get used to it in general, but it was also partially because I had to understand that this is just not my type of videos. And this just taught me that you, as a content creator, you also go through phases, because there is times where you think this is the thing and this is what I want to do and this is what I want to communicate. And then after half a year of doing it, or maybe a year or maybe two, you completely switch it and you come up with new things and you drop that other thing, which is absolutely fine and completely normal. But I had, like most of the people, I had to learn it the hard way. And I think pulling through and staying in this uncomfortable position for a while was a very big teaching point for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely believe that, like, it is always in development and always something new that you're like, maybe that's more suited, and then eventually you'll find yourself in what you really want to do and really get to where you want to be. And of course, that can always change. So that's very interesting to hear that, like,
Yeah.
at the beginning you didn't feel at home yet, but because you wanted to do what you do now, you just didn't know how, and by learning and by just doing, you learned, which is very interesting and awesome to hear, honestly. So
Yeah.
I have another question. You mentioned a couple of series, of course, Endurance and Formula E and DTM. Do you have a favorite series to follow?
No. And I never will. Again, I'm the boring one. I'm like the world open one, but no, I honestly don't. I have I have many reasons why I love certain series, and I have many reasons why I maybe don't like the same series. One of the most painful examples is Formula E, actually. Unfortunately, I'm not as much on track this year as I was last year. So I'm up until this point, I'm not able to speak about the recent development of it all. But I can only talk about my frustration from last year, because I was so I was so surprised by how amazing this new generation of cars is, the Gen 3. I loved the action that we got on track. I know that the drivers did struggle a lot with the cars. It's a car that is very difficult to drive. In the beginning, there were still some issues with people breaking their hands and hurting themselves a lot when they crashed and so on. There was it was, and I believe it still is, not an easy car to handle for the drivers. But for everyone looking at it from the outside and looking at it from a fan perspective and a content perspective, there was actually a lot that was given, that was possible technically. And here comes the point. There were so many restrictions when it came to content creation. There was, as soon as the car is moving, you're not allowed to film it. As soon as there's you get to the box next to the car, you're not allowed to be there, and so on and so forth. There was so many things you were not allowed to do, and in my opinion, that gives a lot of that blocks the development of Formula E and the fandom around Formula E in such a big way. And me as a content creator, I got so frustrated throughout the season, because in the beginning I was like, yeah, new and a new client and new Gen 3 car and this and that. But honestly, after 4 races, I didn't know what to talk about anymore, because I was not able to show more about it. It was so limited to what I can do. Yeah, that it got really, really difficult. So while I loved it, there was also a lot about it I didn't like. And I feel like that's the case in a lot of series. Yeah, it's difficult everywhere. There's always politics, there's always rules, which often are for a good reason. It's also safety that needs to be given to anyone who is involved in the sport. But yeah, and then of course you have the different cars. I mean, how can you choose? You have WEC with the most amazing LMP1 before, and now the whole LMDH and whatever they're called, the hypercars. You have GT racing, which honestly, when I am in Spa for the 24-hour race of the GT World Challenge and these cars pass me down to go up Eau Rouge, every time I'm standing there, I have goosebumps. Even just talking now about it, I get goosebumps. And it's the most amazing feeling to see these GT cars just flying with this unbelievable speed. And then at the same time, you have Formula E, where a lot of these emotions are missing, but it is absolutely incredible on a whole different level, which I know already now in the comments, people will get at me for saying that. But I think there's so many good things if you just split them and don't always compare them. But if you look at these things all by themselves, there's so many amazing series and amazing cars that I'm unwilling to choose.
That's honestly fair. So yeah, for me personally, at the moment, WEC and Formula E are my favorites, partially because of the drivers, but also partially because of the cars and the development and how important actually each race is to the championship, especially compared to Formula One, where you have like 23, 24 races. And yeah, you can have a DNF and still win the championship. Whereas especially with WEC, it's a lot more difficult because of how limited the amount of races are.
Yep.
And the points and the system. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
personally for me.
that's a good point. That's a very good point. Yeah, that it's the two championships you just named, they really do their best to keep it interesting for the fans. Sometimes, I mean, we've seen it with DTM and so on. Sometimes it's the question how political the whole situation is. But nonetheless, I think this series do a good job with keeping the attention of the fans and trying to give them a show as for as long as possible throughout the season, which, yeah, with I think Formula One, that's the one big pain point that is existing, which just even I get bored sometimes when I watch the races, and I love watching races.
Yeah, I've noticed like the past year, especially with Formula One, I missed out on watching some of the races, and I didn't mind watching them back. I just watched the highlights and or the results, and that was already enough for me.
I did the
Whereas with WEC or with Formula E, if I can watch the race back when I missed it, I will, because so many things happen in them, and it's not necessarily chaotic, but it's a little bit all over the place at times, and strategy works in a whole different way with whole different aspects to think about. Just that's what I find incredible about those series.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you on that.
The same. I think Formula One has less and less my attention. I think that's definitely something I noticed last year, that I don't mind missing a race. Like, well, with me, I'm actively trying to follow it, and endurance as well. And with everyone, I'm like, well, there's another race.
Yeah, it's a shame because even Formula One, while a lot of people miss the old engines, the loud engines, the engines that literally killed your ability of hearing. But if you look at the cars today, the technology that is in these cars is absolutely incredible. And it is something that you need a lot of knowledge to know it in detail. You need a lot of, which there's a limit to my knowledge of when it comes to engineering of a car. But just knowing how complex these cars are and the impact that these cars have on the cars that all of us drive at home, this is something I think a lot of people are unaware of, or they keep forgetting about that. And in my opinion, there's also a lack of grabbing this potential as a car manufacturer to really, really ride on that wave. Because again, Formula One, the whole hybrid system, it is absolutely incredible. And I was lucky enough to drive Mercedes always has these long names, Mercedes C63 E-Performance or something like that, the hybrids. And I was lucky enough to actually be on a racetrack with that car. And they do use a lot of the knowledge from Formula E, obviously. And this car was absolutely phenomenal. It was so impressive the way that this car performed. And you could literally feel that people with sport knowledge were behind that and put that knowledge into this car. And this is something that's a wave you can ride on all freaking year, because all year there's racing happening. Same thing with the most of the Formula E brands. There is so much potential to make people, first of all, want to watch Formula E. Second of all, buy the electric car at home because the brand is doing well, or because the brand is developing well, or because the brand is actually explaining to me all the positive things. Maybe even during that race, I experienced this and that because we improved this and that on the car. And by the way, that's what's in your car at home as well. But there's not much happening on that end in my opinion. So that's where people get lost, right? You have you have a race for Formula One where, yeah, it gets quite boring, but there's so much happening in the background, which is still interesting. It's just too complex and very hard to grasp for the majority of people. So yeah, it's a shame, actually. It's a shame because it is still amazing what's happening at Formula One.
Yeah, I always find the technical development and all of that very interesting, but especially also the aerodynamic developments, and you can especially see that very well with Red Bull, who have now once again changed their sidepod design and all of that, which is honestly, I feel like that also has a large impact on the type of road cars, because especially for more the sports cars, so like the Ferrari, McLaren, like the really fast sports car, you see the differences in of it being more streamlined and more also on aero dependent. But for example, I drive in a Citroën, and like you really see like the streamline so that the air gets broken, whereas some cars are like more of blocks where you really, yeah, you don't really think about streamlined or wind braking in that sense.
Yeah.
Whereas with some other cars, you see it much more,
Yeah.
which is also incredible.
It's interesting that you're getting to the point of aerodynamics. I don't know if you followed the Bathurst race at all, the 12-hour Bathurst race, which was happening last weekend, that the GT World Challenge Intercontinental. That was, first of all, wild. There was a lot happening during those 12 hours. But what almost stole the show of the whole race was during free practice, Mercedes had a prototype of their GT race car out, which had the ability, I don't know all the facts yet. I was a little bit too busy with what I have going on at the moment to get into detail, but they have what they call a DRS system in a GT car. So they were able to, while they're driving, to control the wing performance in some way. I don't know which way and how exactly, but they were able to do that. And the track record was crashed by Jules Gounon, who is one of Mercedes' absolute top drivers at the moment. And I believe he's one of the best GT drivers we have at the moment. He crashed the record, which was, I don't remember anymore who did it before. I want to say Engel, but I might be wrong. He crashed it by 4 seconds. And 4 seconds in racing is a freaking lifetime. So this is wild when you see these type of developments on the cars. And I mean, it's a prototype as such. They are trying it out. That's not the car that they drove during the race. But if you see these things, that gets you so excited for anything that's to come in racing in general.
Yeah,
really...
definitely. That's why I love the fact that Le Mans is and like world endurance in general and endurance racing in general drives in prototype for sports cars, which then the developments there can be used in the future for the regular road sports cars. And that way you just have a continuous cycle of development, lessons to be learned and things like that, which is just insane.
Yep.
We talked a lot about like the technical aspects and the development now. What is something you always see yourself looking for when watching any type of motorsport?
Honestly, it is actually the, I don't want to call it fights in between the drivers, but the skills of the drivers. I love when you can really tell that there is brains behind that steering wheel, and they use their skills and their hours and hours and hours of experience to try to be the best one in those few laps that they are given. That's the thing that I really look for. And of course, in order for that to happen, the car has to perform well. So there's the whole back end to this story. But when you can see the race drivers just pounding out lap after lap and doing such a good job, that for me is something very, very nice to see. And I love it when that happens. Often it happens during qualifying almost more than in the race, because at the race you have so many aspects going on. But in qualifying, when they smash out these insane laps, that's what I love.
Yeah, and just keep going, and like it's one lap shootouts in certain series, and you just see like the track evolution going through, but also then how much they keep pushing the further they get, which is insane.
Yeah, it truly is. And it always reminds me of the insane respect I have for them just having almost no feeling for a limit, like literally wanting to get to that limit and potentially push that limit further and further away, which sometimes evidently turns into them reaching the limit and having a crash or something like that. But that you always get back on the horse and just push, 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 no matter what is, for me, it's incredible because let's be honest, they do put their life on the line every single time they get into one of these cars. Luckily, nowadays, not as much as maybe even just 20, 25 years ago. But yeah, this is impressive to me how they can manage to deliver. And I look at Formula One, Max Verstappen delivering 23 races every single weekend the same and on such a high level, even in testing on the highest level. So to me, that's mind-boggling when there's drivers like him out there who just smash it.
Yeah, definitely. And the fact that even on weekends off, he's still doing some kind of racing, especially or he's involved with some kind of racing. Either it's sim racing with Team Redline, or he is commentating a race with Team Redline. He also has a car in DTM, and he helps the development there and the driver development in that, and
I
so
actually
many
have a little
things.
anecdote from that, from him testing with Emil Frey. So it's not his car. Well, it's his car in that sense. It's the driver that he supports, who's driving that car. I did speak to one of the guys in the team not too long ago, and they actually said it's a person he's been doing racing for a long time. He's been always for a long time with Emil Frey, and also just like racing is what he's experienced for the majority of his life. And he said, I have never tested like we tested when he was there. That this was absolutely on a completely different level on what you can get out of a test, and the way that apparently, I mean, I don't know it exactly, but apparently this feeling of the car, this understanding of the car, which, I mean, it's no secret. We know that Max Verstappen has an understanding, a feeling in his butt cheeks for the car to know exactly what is going on, which it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And to hear that from this GT team, that they say, yeah, doesn't have to be a Formula One car. It can actually be a GT car, and he's still very impressive and smashing it. That is impressive, honestly.
I mean, all I can say is he definitely did not get his racing talent from his dad, but from his mom instead. I mean,
we'll leave that out there like that.
I mean, to be fair, the thing is, I'm 2 degrees of separation from his dad, and technically also from Max, because my dad occasionally works where they store the old carts, and I believe they have an old F1 car for Max, but also where they store Jos Verstappen's rally car. And I remember hearing this story where Jos actually crashed his rally car in between sessions.
Great.
And I've
Great.
heard there's the stories of Sophie having competed to several former Formula One drivers and Christian Horner as well, I believe. And they all said she's one of the most incredible karting drivers that has been in the past. And it's just a lot more like how Max has performed than how his dad performed, because his dad was a lot in the gravel trap when he was in F1.
Well, it's that's a bold thing to say, that he probably has it just from his mom, or mostly. But again, maybe he had to be that part to teach Max how not to do it.
Possibly.
Possibly.
Partially.
I mean, what came from this connection between his father and his mother is him, so it must have taught him well.
Yeah, I think partially also the amount that his dad has pushed him back when he was younger also attributed to his mindset, especially
of
to
course.
how he thinks about his performance. But
Yeah.
either way, like really racing wise, definitely performance wise, his mom.
Yeah, that's fun. That's fun
If you
to
look,
look at
at
it like
least
that.
if you look at results.
Yeah, there we go.
But yeah, I don't have any questions anymore for you. I don't know if Jamie still has questions.
No, but do you have questions for us?
Well, I think the one thing that I want to throw back into your court is kind of the question as well. What is the goal of you guys? Where do you see yourself? I don't even know how old you are or what it is that you do, because it's not important. But what is it that you want to do?
So I want to work in healthcare, in some way, shape, or form. I'm also studying for that at the moment. Whether that is in motorsport or not, I don't really care. But more, especially the biological aspects of healthcare, not necessarily going into medicine or anything, but especially research and things like that is part of my goal. And with the podcast, I really want to try to show as many stories from people in many different motorsport perspectives as possible, just to show that there is more ways that can lead to a similar path, but also to different paths, and to show the different aspects that are there for people to be able to join in it.
Yeah, that's nice. That's very nice.
Yes, but the podcast is definitely the same as Danique, but I want to do something in motorsport. I want something media-wise, communication-wise, but I'm not sure yet where I will fit and which series that would be, or which. I like the media aspect of like everything. It's always if I see something on social media, I'm more curious about how something is made and how, like, for example, with Alonso and Jamie, I think it's so funny because I'm in my mind, I'm like, I want to know how Jamie explained Alonso to do certain things, like how went that conversation, like the one with the microwave. I think that was so funny. Also, the behind the scenes what Jamie posted on their socials, I was like, I'm curious how you explained that to him, and that he was like, yes, I will definitely do that.
There you go. So yeah, media and PR is kind of your
Yes.
your area then, to understand how to communicate correctly to the people to get them to do what you want them to do. Yeah, very nice. Well, I'm very glad that you guys asked me twice so that I actually joined this conversation, because yeah, it's always nice to have these exchanges, which luckily enough I get to have a lot on a day-to-day basis. But to take this time, like it's almost 1.5 hours now that we've been having a conversation together, so it's nice to see the interest, not just in myself, but in the industry and in the work that people like me put into it to make it the best possible. So yeah, I guess thank you for doing what you do, and keep going. Take my advice, just go. The worst that can happen is a no.
And even then, sometimes the no can turn into a yes with time.
Exactly. There you go.
Thank you for being here, and it was lovely to speak with you. And for our listeners, if you don't follow our social media, or in the description of today's episode will be our Linktree link, and also in that Linktree is the WhatsApp groups for the European FE races. So if you will be there, just go to the WhatsApp group, and you have like-minded people who also go into the races, because you don't have to be alone. And thank you for listening, and see you next week for another guest.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'ma get attacked. Want you my words, I'ma stay in fact. You want me to take you back, you want me to take you back, you want me to take you back, you want me